Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here for game number 3. We got Immortals Academy going up against Golden Guardians Academy, and if you've kept your eyes on social media this week, you will see that there are some shakeups in the Immortals world right now.
Oh, yeah. So they have fired their general manager and their LCS team coach, which now promoted the Academy coach into the LCS roster, which now leaves this lineup without a coach. Now, a lot of the times that could be a negative thing, but we have seen a lot of teams in the past actually be able to do fairly well after internal shakeups despite not having a lot of leadership, because when you have players that are as veterans as Xmithie, Apollo, and Hakuho, they're pretty good at being self-sustaining and giving themselves some direction. So I don't think it's all gone here for the Immortals Academy lineup. You have a lot of talent in this team, and they have been able to find a footing in the later stage of their first 2 weeks, especially with Xmithie playing the Nidalee. He had such a great game that I just want to see him play more of these carry-style junglers, and he's fairly quick at picking up these kinds of picks. And in Academy, well, you know he's almost always going to get a lead.
Right. The 5 guys you can see on your screen below me right here, they've done plenty of competition here in LCS and in Academy together. Alorum, Xmithie, Insanity, Apollo, and Hakuho. The jungle, bottom lane, and support positions in particular having plenty of LCS stage time. So it's not like you've just got 5 fresh green recruits going out there trying to figure out what to do without a coach. These guys should be able to have some sort of direction moving forward and put themselves in a spot where they should hopefully have a good chance here today against the Golden Guardians, who will be facing them on the other side of the rift after losing their games last week. Close games. They were ahead when this happened, but they failed to close out.
Yeah, the first game they actually ran a very hard focus composition. Now, I'm not saying hard in the difficulty. I'm actually talking about the player. He was playing Kindred. It had all the karma, and all the focus was around him. He was super fed, but they were not able to win out. Look at that gold graph. That should tell you everything about that game. They were winning up until the point where they were not. So that one really stung. And it was against a team that was in a really high position, CLG, that is now 3-1. So that one kind of hurts, especially since they can still make a run for the top. And then their second game where they faced off against Cloud9, well, it was really close up until the very end as well. Look at them once again, right? You build up that gold lead. Love these graphs from production here. Like, we can see exactly what happened. They brought it back, right? They almost lost that streak. Like, uh-oh, we're losing some gold. No, bring it back. And then they lost it again. No, bring it back. And then eventually they lost it again. So it's really telling that this team can do well early. It's just a matter of closing out games. And in the beginning of the season, we did see them really struggle with exactly that, where against some teams, when it came to closing out cleanly, not giving up those kills and continuing to focus on objectives, they were dying a little bit too much, and it only now is starting to show that it's biting them in the ass.
Yeah, excuse me, words. The difference between those two graphs to me, the first graph looked like it was completely in their control the entire time until one throw was the end. And you could see how it was just one straight line going the opposite direction at that point. The second graph looked much more like a tug of war until eventually they tired themselves out. They couldn't tug that rope back any further, and then it slipped out of their hands and their opponents were able to win. And you know, with that being the story of both games in the previous week, this team is going to be hungry for a win here because they know they've got the tools to get ahead. They know they've got the tools to put themselves in the position to win. They just need to close it out.
Yeah, and it's a part that is almost more frustrating than just getting stomped, because you do feel like you are capable, yet you're just not getting the win across the finish line. And so that can be a little bit tougher to really pinpoint as well, because you don't want to change the way that you are fundamentally playing the game, since that is how you're achieving your leads. But at the same time, if that fundamental way of playing the game is also getting sloppy at the end of the game, you need to do an entire restructuring of how you think about playing League in the first place. So we are just going to hop into the champion select. And look at Apollo's beautiful smile with his dimples. Those are some big, nice dimples.
Hey, man, you got to take the good pictures. That's what people are going to be looking at throughout the entirety of the split. That image represents you. Very important. Very important. Speaking of important, Varus on red side ban. Very important. This is where Varus lives. This is his house now. It's not even a very good house. It's just a small trapezoid or a rhombus or I don't remember shapes very well. It's one of those things.
What
It's
shape is that?
It's a square that got bent to the side a little bit. Either way, that's where Varus lives.
I totally know what that is. but I'm
Syndra's
gonna
moving
cheat
in
and
as his
Google.
next door neighbor, and across the street, it's Callista and Karma. The whole street is banned, though. Everybody's not allowed to participate in the game. And here you go, Crumbs. First volley bear ban of the day.
It's a good ban. It's on the blue side, though, so IMT not looking to first pick it, which means they're probably prioritizing a marksman instead. So the standards, Ezreal, Aphelios, and maybe even... Yeah, no, that's really it, right? That's the only thing that's left. So who would have thought? Aphelios first picked again. Whoa.
Be still my heart. I can barely handle this surprise. No, it's pretty clear that Aphelios is usually going to be picked whenever he is available. He's a pretty high priority champion.
I figured it. It's a rhomboid. I think you said that, didn't you?
No, I said a rhombus. No, there's no such. What's a rhomboid, man? I said a trapezoid or a rhombus. You got to pick one. You can't just combine them.
What?
I don't. It's not like a quesadilla and a burrito, and you put them together and make a quesarito. I don't think it works for shapes.
Okay, I think this is getting too specific because there's a lot of different definitions for these kinds of. Oh, actually, no. We're both incorrect. It is a parallelogram since the angles are the same on all sides.
No,
or the opposite sides.
But isn't there a special term for a parallelogram that also has the length of each side be the same? Because a parallelogram, I remember in textbooks and stuff, the diagram usually looked more like a bent rectangle, not a square. I don't know.
Well,
I feel like
isn't that what that is, right? It's like a rectangle that you slant over in a certain direction, but because you slanted it also well, it's all the same angles.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, so like a square is technically a rectangle, right? It's still a rectangle because it meets the criteria, but a rectangle is not a square. So like, whenever
I'm not prepared to show how stupid I am right now.
This thing is technically a parallelogram, but a parallelogram is not just what this thing is. No, a parallelogram is this thing, but this thing, it's one of those two.
It can be more than that. I get what you're saying, right? There's multiple ways to look at it.
Yeah, there's something more specific than a parallelogram that this thing is. Okay, let's get back into the draft. Let's see what we got. Going up against the Aphelios, it's Ezreal in the bottom lane. That's your AD carry matchup. Trundle also picked up here for the side of Golden Guardians Academy. Response in the jungle from Immortals is going to be the Nidalee, as you'll see Twisted Fate in the mid lane with the response from Golden Guardians being Galio.
Yeah, this could be a pretty nasty Nidalee. Smithy had Flame Horizon, his last Trundle opponent, with this exact same matchup. And Twisted Fate is one of the best mid laners that you can combo a Nidalee with, not only for the easy stun setup, but because she is so mobile and wants to be aggressive and prey on the opposing jungler. Twisted Fate is going to be able to assist you from a global range and just teleport right behind the troll and stun him away. So when a Blazolives takes the Galio, it is hoping to counter some of that mid lane presence that Insanity can have. However, Twisted Fate can be a lot more slippery than the Galio can be, as Galio takes a lot more committing to a single play, whereas Twisted Fate can just stun you away and get out.
Point and click, baby, as Jace, Bard, Leona, and Thresh are all going to be banned away here in this second phase. Golden Guardians really paying a lot of respect over to Hakuo. They want to keep those engaged champions away from him.
Yeah, especially when you want to lock in that Nautilus. So the Thresh not wanting to take the hook matchup, and then Leona, as we know, is a very powerful pick into the Nautilus. Every time he goes in, you just out-tank him, and you want to get rid of these tanky supports when you have a Twisted Fate on the enemy team, because you obviously would want to pair a Twisted Fate with tanks. It is very valuable to have more frontliners and more CC on your lineup, and so you're taking away 3 right away, and with Bard already being locked in, curious to see what Hakuho takes, because you know the matchup already. You can go a Tahm Kench here, which would be fairly defensive, but doesn't really play into the rest of the composition all that well. So he has a big champion pool here, but he instead goes with a Rakan, which I love this answer. You still want people that can get into the fight. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to take advantage of the pressure that Insanity can bring.
So I will tell you this, a fun fact that I know about Tahm Kench, Crumbs. Apparently, right now, in the current state of League of Legends around the world, the only champion more unpopular than Skarner is Tahm Kench. So he's not exactly in the best shape. Yup. The only champion more unpopular than Skarner in terms of like global pick rate and play rate is Tahm Kench, which is a feels bad.
Teemo is not more unpopular than Tahm Kench?
No, in terms of play rate? Are you kidding? Everybody plays Teemo, bro, because you get to be annoying.
Oh, okay.
and
I thought you
automatically
meant
win
like
your
a pro play. I was thinking
lane.
pro play.
No, not in
exclusive.
pro play. It's like pro play across everywhere, like all solo queue
Okay,
regions
got
and
it.
stuff. Because if it wasn't pro play, it would be like, I don't know, something that literally never
Well,
gets
it's because
played
he's
by someone.
gross. He's a toad. He's a river demon. Of course, no one wants to play
It's
that.
gross. He's a toad. Well, speaking of gross, we also have Urgot locked in for the side of Immortals Academy, and I want to talk to you for a second about that, because specifically around the conversations with top lane itemization that's popular for bruisers. Think Blade of the Ruined King, and think Death Stance with the upcoming changes to that item that are coming in for ranged champions here very soon. Urgot feels like he kind of gets the short end of the stick all the time because he is a ranged champion, so he gets the bad version of Blade of the Ruined King. He's going to have the bad version of Death Stance. Is this a solid pick, or are we just in a space and time where Urgot's kind of iffy?
He's still pretty good, actually. There are a few top laners around the world that play him still. I think the one that comes to mind is Whippo from Fnatic, and Urgot has a ton of power, especially if you have a lot of tanks on the enemy team. Not only can your ultimate be really disruptive in just bursting them down and doing so much true damage, but your laning phase is surprisingly strong. He's not easy to bully away, and they banned away the Jace, which would have been the most problematic matchup for him. So Alorim is one of the most experienced Urgots that we have in NA, since he loves to pick so much, and with the setup of having a Twisted Fate jumping into your lane, it is a really good lane to have solid presence and pressure, and then follow it up with a global to help you set up more kills to snowball.
And with that, we're stepping away to build game delay, but once we are back, we will have the game ready to go for y'all from the start, just like always. Don't you go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the third game of the day as Immortals Academy and Golden Guardians Academy are just about ready to square off. We already saw Champion Select. The delay has been put into place, and we're just about ready to jump into game. But first, Crumbs, we learned some very important information during the break, didn't we, my friend?
Yes, we did.
Sir, we did. We learned that slanted, square-looking shape thing that the Champion's portraits appear in during Champion Select is indeed a parallelogram. However, more specifically, as I thought, a parallelogram in plain Euclidean geometry, a rhombus is
You're
a
reading off of
quadrilateral.
Wikipedia,
Yes,
aren't you?
yes, shush. A rhombus is a quadrilateral whose four sides all have the same length, which is also a parallelogram because a parallelogram is the same thing, but only opposite sides have the same length. So when all of the sides have the same length, it's both a rhombus and a parallelogram, but the rhombus is the more specific one. We learned.
But the sides of this one in Champion Select are not the same length, though it is
Wait,
a
they're not?
parallelogram.
Wait,
right?
they look the same length.
No, they're not the same length because the champion's portrait is portrait shaped. It's not horizontal. It's more vertical.
I thought for sure that looked like it was the same length. That seems like an optical illusion thing. I'm willing to bet. I'll bet you a quesarito it's the same.
All right, I'm
length.
looking it up right now because I want a case of. I want that. I want that food.
I want that.
looking it up.
Okay.
Looking it up right
All
now.
right, Crumbs. If you can figure out if it's 100% a parallelogram, I will buy you a quesarito. But if it's a rhombus,
So I just have to prove that the length of all four sides are different, and I get this.
just all four. It's not that they all have to be different. It's that all four are not the same. If even one or two of them is different,
Okay.
then it's fine. This
is free. Unless it is an illusion, which I am a
That's
little
what I
bit
said.
concerned.
I'm pretty sure it's an illusion. It's like one of those things that you're supposed to stare at for a while, and then it gets all
I'm measuring
woolly.
my screen right now.
Okay, while Crumbs figures this out, ladies and gentlemen, remember, we are getting into our third game of the day here with Immortals Academy going up against the Golden Guardians Academy. Immortals Academy specifically going to be playing Xmithie, Apollo, Hakuo, players that have had a lot of LCS stage time. So these guys, we're looking for them to pop off here in Academy. We're looking for them to prove they deserve to get their spot back on the main stage. Crumbs, have you figured out whether the thing is a rhombus or a parallelogram?
Yeah, no, I didn't have an actual ruler, so I tried using a key to measure against the
you're
screen.
holding
Not
a
ideal.
key up to your computer screen and trying to figure out where
Yeah,
on the
not
key
ideal.
it is?
So I'll have to wait until the break, and we can solve
not have
this
like
once and for all. Or somebody could just tweet at us and do it for us.
piece of paper?
and that would be fine.
Like a piece of paper or a pen?
Yeah, I didn't have any of those things handy around me.
What about your
had
finger?
inconvenient shapes.
Your finger sounds better than a key, because the finger's at least a straight line. As we have a straight line from the Nautilus right on to the Urgot. Let's see if they can find the kill here. Golden Guardians early on, looking to get scrappy, but Alorum does get himself away. Shouldn't be any more CC
He just
able to follow
walked
him up.
out.
Yep, he's fine. He's fine. Everything's fine.
Not really phased, actually. There was not enough follow-up right away. And without a Blaze Olive being there to immediately taunt you, he doesn't really have anything to fear. In fact, with only having, going for a Doran Shield instead of having the potions, doesn't even lose anything. All that happened is that now Keith's damage gets to be a little bit amped up.
Yeah, no reason not to. Might as well have Keith packing a little bit more punch there, but Xmithie starting off on his red will be pathing towards that top side. You can see that the ward placed down at the enemy blue buff still sees that blue buff is not taking any sort of aggro or damage right now, so the Golden Guardians are aware of Xmithie's starting location, and Hard will be pathing differently, wanting to start up on that top side, starting with his own red, immediately going down to clear the blue, buff to buff.
Yeah, so I think that Xmithie should know that Hard is going to be on his blue right now and that he started red, not only because you saw that Zion Spartan had leashed, that the bottom lane did not leash, but because the invade took so long to back off that it would not have been ideal for Hard to base and then make it all the way to blue buff. So the invade should be part of the reason why Xmithie should be aware that this is going to likely end up in a battle for the top scuttle, as Hard is now pathing back into the top side with the Wolves and then followed by the Raptors.
Raptors early on with Trundle is kind of a time-consuming camp to do because you've got to bonk all of them on the head individually. Although I do think, okay, Crumbs, what do you think about this? Since we're still in the early parts of the game where we're not likely to see a bunch of kills. If League of Legends ever gets to the point where we start making more IRL merch, I want a knockoff whack-a-mole game called Boppa Chicken. And it's, you get a Trundle Bone Shiver mallet, and you have to hit the little chickens that pop up, just like Trundle does on his first clear. You don't have a Tiamat, you don't have a Cinderhulk, so you just gotta bonk them all in the head. I would buy like 3 of those to give to friends and family.
Is this in an arcade? Because that sounds fun.
Yes, it's in an arcade. Actually, they should make Trundle one of the next arcade skins and give him an arcade bonk hammer and have him hit the chickens with it. It makes a special noise. As in the top side, Zion Spartan getting into a 1v1 with Alorum. Both of them taken very low now. Alorum trying to get himself away. Zion Spartan goes for the flash. Alorum flashing back over the wall. It is a full 3v3, ladies and gentlemen. Insanity dealing some cards out to Hard, and now backing away. Xmithy right back into the river, seeing if maybe he can contest this Scuttle Crab, but Blaze Olive does not want to allow that to happen. Spear will not find its way onto anything, man or crab alike, and the Golden Guardians will secure it.
So you wonder, why is it that at the time that Xmithy goes for the top crab, Alorum is all-inning Zion, Insanity loses his flash, and the Blaze Olive is right there? It's because everyone knew that it was going to be a top Scuttle fight, and so they all wanted to take pressure into their lanes and make sure that they could help out their junglers. So this early fight ends up being won out by Golden Guardians as they get the summoner advantage, and now it looks like Hard gets double scuttles as well. I can't really see from the top one with the icon there if it's a trap laid directly on top of the crab, but I believe that Hard just got double scuttles this game.
That's 2 out of 3 games today, Crumbs, that one of the junglers has got double crab at the very start. Xmithy stopped from jumping over the wall thanks to the pillar. Flashes over Hard with the follow-up flash. But now, Hard may have baited himself, or has he? Nope, he has baited both himself and his allies, as a Blaze Olive will be first-blooded. Hard getting a little too excited about that play. Ends up putting his teammate in a spot where they can't make any sort of a move out of it. And that is first blood for Immortals.
They must have thought that Xmithy had burned his flash in that earlier tussle, because overcommitting for him like that would just not work. And now they're going to go for Alorum, but Nidalee is still here, and Hard can get burst down despite Xmithy being really low. They can just kite out their cooldowns and have that range advantage, but they have to reset the wave as it is still pushing in their favor. They want to make sure that Zion can't freeze this here, so Xmithy is going to stick around and help him shove this out.
That spear looked like it was dangerously close to hitting Hard there at the very end of the travel time. And considering that was the very end, might have even been enough to kill him. 250 HP or so, not quite sure as to how far that level 2 Nidalee Spear would scale, but bottom side you can see Hawkwo making sure this wave crashes into the turret here, just sticking around long enough to grab some extra plate money. I didn't comment on it earlier on like I did in the previous 2 games, but I do want to mention now as we see the teleport come in. 3 teleports for Immortals, only 2 on the side of Golden Guardians. The cleanse on Keith is the difference there, wanting that extra combat summoner spell to get out of the guaranteed CC of things like the Recon Quickness and the Twisted Fate Gold card.
Make that 4 teleports on the side of Immortals, because you've got Insanity's ultimate as well, and maybe 2.5 from the side of, or 1.5 from the side of Golden Guardians with the Galio. So it's a lot of global pressure here in this game, which is slowly what a lot of games end up turning into when you have Gangplank like we saw in the last game. Then you've got the Twisted Fate. It's about how often and quickly can you assist the fights for your teammates. And here comes that big assist with a Blaze Olive's ultimate being ready to assist in the tower dive against Alorum, who still doesn't have flash. Here they go. TF can counter, and he does.
Well, here comes the Galio Slam. Heal coming through. Alorum still going to be kept alive, but no longer Sir. Golden Guardians have managed to find 1. Can they make it 2? They got to juggle this aggro properly. They will manage to do so. Very well done there in that top side by Golden Guardians Academy. 2 for free.
That was very clean. Look at the way that they juggled the aggro. Blaze Olive was hovering on the far side away from Twisted Fate's gold card. So even if he stunned somebody, they weren't going to die to the turret. So it's a really well-timed move. And the fact that Xmithy wasn't there was what made it so one-sided. I think had Xmithy been there, that might have been different. But that's exactly what the Galio is all about, being able to outpace somebody's jungler and then really punish it. Whereas Twisted Fate's ultimate, you usually want to use it in situations that are a lot more aggressive, and that's really going to hurt Immortals, as this game is a lot about globals in the mid lane, and already we have a, think of it as a +1 for Golden Guardians and a -1 out of Immortals, as they use their cooldowns and got nothing for it.
Insanity also even used the Summoner Spellbook to switch over to Summoner Heal in that fight, just trying to keep Alorum alive a little bit longer. Unfortunately was not enough, but I like the fact that he went the extra distance there to make it happen. First Drake of the game will go over to the side of Immortals, however, and despite being down 1 kill compared to their opponents, their farm leads in bottom lane, in mid lane, and particularly in the jungle, where 20 CS is the name of the game for Xmithie over hard, have put them in a spot where they're ahead in gold.
This is kind of what we've heard from Keith in our interview, where a lot of the plan doesn't necessarily revolve around the top lane for their team, but in the game itself, it ends up being the case, and they're going to try to go in the Alorum once more. They have ultimate to die, but he's very tanky, but the chain connects.
I thought for sure he was going to get out of that chain at the last possible second, but just not quite. Still barely in the range, means they're able to take him down. Zion Spartan with that last hit there.
The big one was the pillar there out of hard. So this is a classic Golden Guardians game, playing around top lane, getting Zion Spartan ahead, and now he just has to cleanly close out the game. But it is coming at the cost of a bottom lane disadvantage for Keith. He hasn't gone with the tier, he hasn't gone with the Cole to try to stack at all, so he's going to be just stuck in this CS deficit without any help just yet. So we need to see what Zion can do with this lead to close out the game, because so many of the game involves getting yourself ahead and then transitioning that lead into somebody else so that they can then finish the game off. You don't have a single player, think of it as a single player, you don't have one guy just dribbling the ball and then scoring. It's about the one guy that has to dribble it all the way to a certain point and then pass it on to somebody so that he can just dunk it.
Speaking of getting dunked, remember a couple minutes ago when I mentioned how Trundle had 39 farm? Well, only just now did he get more farm past that. Hard falling very far behind in terms of the pace of the jungle. Yes, he's investing a lot of time into getting involved in these lanes, particularly with Zion Spartan, trying to help that out. But he's significantly behind Xmithie, and we'll see how much of a role that plays as we move forward. Considering Xmithie will have stronger smites, he'll have extra points in his abilities, just be stronger when both of them show up to the same location. So once Xmithie does start getting involved in these lanes, we should see a noticeable difference there. Top side though, man, that help that Hard gave him is just doing so much work for Zion Spartan. 30 CS lead for the Aatrox over the Urgot. Nothing but ninja tabbies there for our 6-legged crab robot spider friend. Not having a very great time. But bottom side, you already said it, man. Aphelios is just having a game for himself. He knows exactly this is where he wants to be.
That's kind of what Aphelios feels like. The game was designed for himself, so he can just do whatever he wants. And I want to touch on your point with Hard and the Nidalee, because we see this matchup so much. Nidalee versus Trundle. And Trundle, of course, he falls behind because he has terrible jungle clear compared to what Nidalee has. Now, what Trundle players bank on is I can get my lanes ahead, and also they think that Nidalee's not going to be that useful later into the game, and most of the time it's true. Nidalee is not always that useful, so a lot of it comes down to just how good can the Nidalee player be in team fights. What kind of itemization do they go for? Because Xmithie, in the last Nidalee game, he went for the more tanky, bursty build, not the classic pure utility Grail in a Zhonya's. He went with a Roa, right? He wanted to have a little bit more damage, a little bit more sustainability so that he could get into the fight and land those spears and actually execute people. So there's a lot more about fighting than the traditional Nidalees that we have seen in the patch so far. So it's a good look that we've seen from him before, and I think he's going to go for it again here, because it makes a lot of sense that you want to have more health when you're dealing with these champions that are very quick to burst you down, whether it's the Galio or the Aatrox. If you can survive that initial combo, you will have a lot more confidence pouncing in after you connect the Javelin.
Really looking at Insanity here too. You were talking a lot about him in the draft, saying how useful this Twisted Fate ultimate is, talking about how you can teleport behind these opponents. I'm trying to remember, what is it the weebs say? Oh, my wash Shindaru, and then you instantly kill them, except with instead of a sword, it's a card. This is the kind of play that we need to see out of this Twisted Fate. You've got to go to the other lanes, you've got to get involved, but the opportunities just aren't there so far here for Immortals. I want to see them utilize this pick and really make things happen with the ult.
And I mean, the big place to go for is in the top lane, where Alorim, despite being behind, has an execute. You can combo it with the Nidalee. You'll have enough damage to take down the Aatrox, but keep in mind that you have to involve more than a single member when you're playing Twisted Fate against the Galio. Normally you would know that, oh yeah, I could just outroam him, but look at what happens. Galio roams over, and now the teleport is here, so they're getting counter-engaged.
Full fight breaking out here. A lot of damage coming down onto Hawk. But he gets himself away. Zion Spartan going to be tanking up too there, looking to get himself out, but the Urgot ulti has made its way onto the target. Can they bring him back? Ladies and gentlemen, into the grinder! And Alorim will make sure that Immortals walk out of that fight victorious, not only with a kill, but with a turret to boot.
That was a fantastic turn from Insanity and Alorim onto Zion Spartan. He would have been the big target to flank and really accentuate the engage from Golden Guardians. But when they immediately lock him down with Urgot right there, it's all too easy. You just need to get him low enough, which is why you see the Twisted Fate flashing forward and making sure that he gets below the threshold and executes him. So it actually played out perfectly, where those two champions don't quite have enough damage to take him down over the threshold. You just need a little bit more, whether it's from Nidalee or the Aphelios, to make sure that he gets executed. And now that big advantage that Zion Spartan had, it's not really translated to the bottom side of the map. In fact, it is Immortals who's now been able to quietly grow a pretty significant lead strictly off of farm and from that last play.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned for the Golden Guardians when they were up 3-1, but still down over 500 gold. And now that has ballooned incredibly. I mean, this squad of Immortals just out farming so heavily across all the different roles. They've got more money through what they've done with the turrets, taking that turret down there in the bottom lane. And especially we saw in that last fight, the Urgot, even though he's the weak link of the team right now, he's the one falling behind, he's not exactly where he wants to be, but it's okay as long as he hits those ultis. The execution threshold can still mean so much in taking down these big meatballs in the Nautilus and the Galio and the Trundle, that it still brings plenty of value to the team fights, and that's what you like to see.
Exactly. So much of the top lane is about, well, I might fall down. I might be really far behind if I get camped and the wave gets sacked, but I can still have abilities that are useful. So that's why champions like the Wukong are super popular, the Ornns, the Shens, even the Urgots. Like, they always are going to be able to bring something to the table despite their disadvantages. Just some can pull it off a little bit better than others, and this is now Golden Guardians committing to, we want a 5v5 right away. We don't want to get picked off by the Twisted Fate. But now you're dealing with Nidalee Spears. A single one has already collapsed in, and the rest of the team is now positioning themselves to take this fight. We're going to have a big brawl here very soon.
Golden Guardians have a lot of initiation potential here with the Nautilus. Let's go, baby! Dredgeline finds its way down onto Rakan, but here we go! 200 years of team fighting! Infernum ultimate into the middle of multiple people, able to take them so low, and this team fight is going in the way of Immortals so far. Apollo grabbing a kill onto a Blaze Olive, putting another bullet in the back of Zion Spartan. Double kill over to the AD carry from Immortals. Keith and Hard will escape. Hard just barely, and Immortals will only lose one to take that fight.
Golden Guardians puts themselves into a corner and just asks Immortal to engage, and so they have Haku on the side. Chime goes on him right away, but when you burn everything for the Rakan, you just don't have any follow-up for anybody else. And it's not like this is a particularly strong spike for the Immortals. For the Golden Guardians members. The Ezreal is really not up to par just yet, and Galio is not the guy to just immediately wipe a team fight. So without Zion Spartan being there immediately to follow up on a single target and somehow get past the crowd control, they just get wiped off the fight. I mean, so many times you see teams go for these Herald plays, and you give too much of an opportunity for the rest of the team to set yourself up, right? You go immediately onto Hakuho, and every other carry is just having an absolute field day. Look at Keith, he's already running away. He knows this fight is so over. There is no point of fighting. You gave way too big a window for Immortals to set up and pick you apart.
Immortals in a 5-4 game are 5,000 gold ahead. You don't normally see a lead that big with only 1 kill being the advantage, but things are working out here for this squad going up against Golden Guardians Academy. It's only 18 minutes into the game, Crumbs. This is not the stage where you're okay, where you're comfortable with a 5,000 gold deficit if you are the Golden Guardians. This squad is going to need to find picks. Fights in fair and open ground are no longer on the menu. They just do not seem winnable, and they've got to be so careful about when they engage, even with these champions like the Nautilus and the Galio that can go in and start things off together with a powerful initiation. If it's off even a little bit, man, it's so easy for them to lose the fight after just because of how far ahead their opponents are.
The good news is that the composition can be fairly strong later. We have a lot of beefy frontliners. You can dive quite well onto the immobile carries of Immortals. It's not like Insanity or Apollo can do a lot of surviving besides Hakuho peeling for him or Xmithy healing. You do, however, need Keith to be really strong, so he still doesn't have that Trinity Force, and the big spike you're looking for here is the Death Stance, the third item from Keith. Once he hits that spike, he's going to be in a really good position to be able to be alongside his tanks and dish out the damage to the focus targets that get either subjugated or CC'd. Until then, Golden Guardians is going to be in a tough spot, and now Chime gets caught out, and they're leaving him to die. Not sure why you would pop the stopwatch right there. That's just a fat misplay because
just an
you
error.
really would want that for a position where you can engage and then buy some time for the team. You don't just want to stall your obituary there.
Yeah, the stopwatch that's only used to buy yourself 2.5 extra seconds before your screen turns to grayscale is always one of the biggest feels badman experiences of League of Legends. I assume maybe he was thinking the rest of the team was going to try to reposition around him and maybe take the fight there, but the rest of the team made the right call in not doing so, considering what I said earlier. They're down 7,000 gold, well, more like 6,500, but it's still such a hard game to take a fair fight in open ground. Insanity holding the line here against Zion Spartan. TP showing up from a Blaze Olive. It's a 2v2. Insanity and a Lorem up here, but if you're Immortals, you're not looking to flex super hard around this when they had manpower committed to the bottom lane to make sure they were able to take that third Drake of the game, and now they've put themselves on Soul Point. 4.5 minutes from now, Golden Guardians will have to defend a Drake or surrender the soul.
Yeah, and so much of the gold lead has been from the turrets and the CS because the Golden Guardians lineup, by being shoved into every single turret, they just have been losing plates constantly, whereas Zion was not able to really get a lot from his turret in the top lane as there was so much pressure from Insanity and Xmithy being able to respond. It was only that first dive that we saw that went well for them. Everything else was a matter of just Urgot clearing and not letting Aatrox get to the turret. So you now have a 150 gold bounty on Alorem, who had a pretty rough start but is now fully caught up. He's very capable of dealing with Zion now, and in fact his build is pretty much the same. He even cashed in a call, is going for the Death Stand second, so he might even be ahead of the Aatrox now.
All right, Crumbs, let's put you into position of the Golden Guardians hive mind right now. How do you play this? No, you can't say /FF. How do you play this out? What's the opening, man? What's the window? Because I'm not seeing one. This is a solid brick wall to me here right now. Hakuho trying to get himself away. A Blaze Olive coming in from the side. Hakuho trying to dash back out here yet again, using the quickness for the bonus movement speed to continue to disengage. There comes your dredge line as Zion Spartan has made his way behind. There we go, ladies and gentlemen, the collapse coming out from the Golden Guardians. They're trying to find a kill here. Insanity disengages. Moonlight Vigil through from Apollo there. Golden Guardians, tragically, despite the fact they were able to find the flank with the TP from Zion Spartan and the ulti following up from a Blaze Olive, it got no kills. And Immortals are now looking to turn things right back around. Hakuho's got the knock-up, follow-up damage coming through. CC lands, damage is there right afterwards, and Apollo grabs his 4th kill of the game. If that play doesn't work out for the Golden Guardians, man, what will?
Well, first of all, I gave you the reason of what will, but in all honesty, what they needed to do is not go for the most difficult target to engage upon in Rakan. That is not the guy you want to be engaging on. It didn't work because you went on the most mobile champions that IMT has instead of going for maybe the Twisted Fate, perhaps the Aphelios or maybe even the Urgot. So there's a lot of cooldowns that they burn, but none were in champions that increase your odds of actually picking those picks. It was a really good look, not gonna lie, but it was just not the targets to go for. I like the flank from Zion Spartan with a Blazolev's combo, but it wasn't in the position that would actually get your knockup from Galio. And that was another loss. The double emote spam. Alorum doesn't spam one, but 2 is enough.
Alorum hitting these harpoons from a long way away, making sure that he's bringing value to the team here. And this is now a 5v4 for Immortals. The initiation coming through from the gold card. Follow up there from Hakuo. Hard's got no way out. And considering the enemy jungler is now down, I think the call is pretty obvious for Immortals, Crumbs.
Yeah, this is going to be very easy to secure. You're barely going to lose any health here. Smithy can keep anybody else topped off. You got to funnel more gold into Keith. He's your only hope. Nobody else is going to be able to get close enough to the Immortals team to dish out lineup or any damage. Everybody else is really just a CC bot here. So if there's any hope, it has to be on him. So it's a matter of funneling as much gold as possible and sacking as much experience from everybody else. So this is where Hard gets to itemize Stoneplate right away. There's no point going for CDR, no Knight's Vow here. All about how can I buy time, which gets really tricky in teamfights because now you only have one pillar. You're not having enough cooldown reduction to actually offer more than that. So it gets to be a perfect fight or they run away, how Immortals just did the last time. Luckily, they have a ward there to catch out Insanity and know that the rest of the team is grouped up, but contesting this dragon right now does not look like the play, despite it being the Infernal Soul. You just can't get in here. You don't have anybody that can stand close enough to not only tank a spear, but get even in range to assist with your crowd control, hoping that Keith can follow up. It's a matter of perhaps too many tanks and not enough damage or targets that can immediately follow up.
Free Infernal Soul for Immortals feels so good when you're so far in control of the game. Your opponents cannot even begin to contest for that soul. 9,000 gold up 25 minutes in. Soul already secured. This should be all but over for Immortals. This is what we want to see, the clean win here. For Golden Guardians, the tragedy is they were never even at the point in this game where they were ahead. As early on as them having the 2-1 lead in the kills, they were still behind in gold just because of the way things were going with the farm and the resource allocation outside of kills. And it's just been an ever building downward slope from there. Immortals moving forward. Let's see how much use they can get out of this remaining 60 seconds of the Baron buff. Bottom lane tier 3 turret is down. Bottom lane inhibitor will not even be defended. Immortals, plenty of damage to take this one out. You can see Insanity is not grouped up with the rest of the team right now, but he can easily be there with the use of the ultimate. Spear flies over the wall, but will not find the mark onto Hard. Now Immortals sieging up as 5 here in mid lane. 40 seconds left on the Baron buff. Should probably only get this wave up to the turret, so we'll see if they can do anything with it or if Golden Guardians will successfully defend this. Insanity into the stopwatch there. Chime using the Nautilus ulti onto him, so he just wanted to be better safe than sorry. Make sure he didn't get hit by that. Urgot ult will be intercepted. Golden Guardians doing a good job of making sure that there's no free kill given over to Alorum with that one, and now Immortals will finally back away.
So I think what Golden Guardians can take away from this game is that they tunneled too hard in trying to counter what Insanity was going to do with the Twisted Fate by picking the Galio, and they would have been in a really solid spot if they had someone like an Azir or an Orianna that would have assisted in the engage, but also offered a ton in the damage department, because there's nobody that can really go in and also offer that really powerful ultimate for Galio. You don't have a Camille, you don't have a Jarvan, which are the two most popular combos that we've seen with Galio with his reemergence in the mid lane. So with that lacking, it gets really tricky because no one's even giving you the position to go in, and not only do you not have the position, you don't have the damage, and now you're just sitting back and getting poked away while the rest of Immortals can just farm up. And you could have opted to farm up, but again, there's not even a target that you'd really want to give all that gold to. So I think that this is a very good learning experience for them thus far, and one that we can see exactly what Immortals can do with the Nidalee and Twisted Fate. It's a combination that we'll see a lot more this weekend and from a lot more teams just because it is so reliable in pressuring the side lanes.
And honestly, this level of a stomp is what I think a lot of people were expecting from Immortals from the very beginning, considering they are running Apollo and Hakuo and Xmithie. Apollo getting the Moonlight Vigil there, just not quite enough damage to take him down, but still enough to send everybody home with a couple scrapes and bruises. Immortals taking down their second inhibitor now. They've got Alorum already in position with the wave up in top lane, sieging onto the last remaining tier 2 turret. A Blaze Olive will step forward, but not really anything he can do, just trying to see where everybody's rotating from, what's going on here, waiting for Immortals to crash this last wave into the last remaining inhibitor turret. Where will Golden Guardians make their stand? Do they want to try to fight for this remaining inhibitor? If they lose it, remember, they're stuck in their base for the rest of the game, but they can still maybe try to fight on double Nexus turrets.
They don't even have wards to flank here. They're not trying any flanks whatsoever. The last attempt was when we saw them go on Hakuha. Any other attempt has really just been mute, and once again, they're not really going to stand up to Immortals here. They're just going to let the base whittle away as they're just slowly walking into the ocean and just holding their breath and waiting for the next game.
Jesus, that's bleak. Let's see what happens to the Golden Guardians now. There's nothing slow about this team fight, Crumbs. 2 health bars already completely eviscerated. Alorum's able to find the third one with the execution into the fear, supplying the opportunity to get the 4th kill. Only Hard is left standing. He'll just do a little dance there in the fountain. And that is a 29-minute win coming out from Immortals Academy, making that one look so incredibly one-sided.
Super easy. I'd love to see Xmithie's Nidalee thus far. We've only seen it in 2 matchups against 2 Trundles, but we get to know that he definitely still got it in this kind of matchup, whether it's in CSing or being able to escape a lot of ganks. So this is, like you said, what we wanted to see out of this roster. In fact, anything other than stomping an Academy would have been an absolute disaster for them. So seeing them actually perform at this level and continue to roll over a few teams is par for the course for a team that has the 2nd all-time LCS trophy holder.
It was a strong showing from the Immortals Academy squad, and now that it's all wrapped up, we're going to step away. But after a 4-minute break, we've got Game 4 as 100 Thieves and TSM will load on to the Rift. It's the battle at the top of the standings. You don't want to miss it.